morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Mo, where authenticity lives and thrives to create a space of growth, healing, and joy. I am your host, Andrea Lawful Sanders, and each day we will cover the topics that are informative and engaging while learning from each other. Good morning to each and every one of you. Um, how are you? Thank you so much. It's been a strange few days for me, but as you could tell, I am here and didn't want to worry anyone. Just trying to get myself on an even keel and making sure. Good morning, Monica. I see you guys. Good morning. Good morning. Um, whew, whew. Okay, I'm looking for David. I don't see him. David is joining me this morning. And so we're gonna make sure that he gets in here since I wasn't on yesterday morning. As you can hear, I sound a little bit congested, but okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Bobby. Good morning, Laura. There he is. Okay. Uh, good morning, David.
Good
How are
morning.
you?
I'm well, thank you. I was just in morning motivation meditation
Yes,
mode.
and
And
I'm
I
getting
was
ready to do my. So excuse me, I'm getting ready to do my morning motivation, and I'm trying to find one that was appropriate. What was yours?
This world sometimes seems cruel and cold, and pain doth pierce my very soul. But there's a place, a secret a place where we can go, where ye shall hide me in his tabernacle from the rain and storm, and even when my enemies pursue me, he'll keep me safe from harm. And when my world seems cruel and cold, no peace it seems my rest will hold. There is a place, as I eager blaze, a place where we can go.
Good morning. That is beautiful. That is so. Thank you, David.
Mhm. Sometimes we have to rest in that place, right? Because this is a time where things are cruel and cold, and there is a lot of pain, and there is a suffering, and there is a feeling of overwhelmed. And we have to find that place that you and I and this audience can go. And I think that when we remember that, it soothes briefly, just briefly enough for hope to be stirred up, right? Just
Hmm.
briefly enough for a little fire to be lit that allows our candles to burn just a little brighter, that maybe shows someone a way out of darkness, that helps us to come to a place of solidarity and truth. And in that place that we can go, there's safety.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I got one for you.
Mm.
All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. I can't, I'm going to cry. It's
Yeah.
been a, it's been a.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you are like me, where we have been, just so many things are swirling and going on, it becomes really difficult. So I am going to, let me read this. And then we can go into, thank you, my brother. This is beautiful. It is incredibly telling of your leadership when you resort to petty behaviors, especially in a field where people come and go all the time. If you are ever faced with such a person, and believe me, they are some of your highest leaders who smile beautifully for the cameras but are narcissistic, arrogant, and hypocritical beyond measure, take the high road. Maintain your dignity because it speaks volumes about them and not you. While they feel they are untouchable, no one is. Time will tell and remove them one way or the other. Um, it's a time. It is a time in this world for us. And I believe that you and I have connected for such a time as this. Um, you have been thoughtful. You have been researched. You've made me research more, right? You've made me take a deeper look at some of the things that are going on around us. And David, it has become the feeling it's a I don't know if I am not feeling well because of all the things that are happening
Mhm.
or if I'm not feeling well because I'm not feeling well. Does that make sense?
Really,
Right? The lack of sleep, the lack of all
really,
the
yeah.
things.
And all of it. It's all of it, right? I mean, how we move in space and time and what pressures exist in our outside world affect us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And so when we feel sick in times like this, it's not just the sickness of the manifestation that's happened from the total sickness, it's the totality of sickness.
Yes.
Right? It's the stress that causes us to allow our pH levels to drop so low that we can become sick.
Right. Right.
Right.
So
So
it's
I know what I know that I know is it's not over. What I know that I know is it's not over. I was closing out Love Non Media's magazine portion of their business, and there was this telethon, if you will. And I did an interview on the telethon where I was talking about the
yeah.
idea that we have to get up and look in the mirror and tell ourselves the truth again and again.
And again.
And we have to challenge ourselves always to come to that mirror and look deep within ourselves and say, what is this? What's going on here? What am I feeling? What am I explaining? What am I living through? What am I living with and in?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I living with and with and through and feeling and
Mm-hmm.
experiencing? And
Mm-hmm.
how then do I manifest that into a more beautiful space and place where we
Yeah.
could go? And so I think that we do live in this time where um, we can no longer rely on someone else to tell our truth.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I posted about Columbus Day,
Mm-hmm.
Indigenous Peoples Day. And I told a story about Christopher Columbus, the man who was a Sephardic Jew who had to change his religion because of persecution in Spain and in Italy. Someone who
Mm-hmm.
has been tossed out of several countries before he got to the Spanish queen and begged her to be able to travel around the world to get to Asia, where he was going to collect gold. And of course, we know he never made it to Asia. His
Mm-hmm.
calculations are off, and he made it to the West Indies. And in the West Indies, he found people who were native who had no gold, and all they had was rubber trees. And he had to return to Spain with these rubber trees, and he thought, well, that won't work. This is not what I promised. And so he enslaved the 500 people that he could fit on his three ships that had been funded by Spain and shipped them back to the very Catholic queen, who was so angry that he had enslaved the people that he had claimed in her name, that she
Mm-hmm.
sent them back, and only 50 survived on the way back. He is the father of the North American slave trade. And it didn't end there, because in Hispaniola, which is the European name we give to this place, he was so disliked even by other settlers that they called to have him arrested, and he was taken back to Spain in chains, where he spent time in prison for his crimes against humanity. We know of his ancestry and his journey because of DNA testing, because of his DNA, which can be found in two different grave sites, and the DNA of his son and their successors. We
Mm-hmm.
know his DNA and his story because of the letters he wrote in Hebrew to his son, looking for protection. But the reason why I mentioned this root path is because here was an impressed people. Here was an oppressed people who had been systematically removed from everything in life over and over again, who had just been told you can no longer practice your faith, you must convert to Catholicism or you must get out.
Mm-hmm.
And that person with that history went to another place. a secret place where he enslaved the people of that secret place and brought them home. And I think we have to sit in that space and look at that as a people who have often been dragged through the mud, that we mustn't ever become people who go to a secret place to
Yes.
rob people, to traffic them, to make them into slaves. No matter what our pain looks like, no matter what our journey is like, no matter what we're going through in the world, we can't become that energy, as you just spoke to, that goes lower. We have to be the energy that stands resilient, respectful, dignified, that says, we don't behave that way. We're going
Mm-hmm.
to be the mark of what we can be. The second thing I talked about in the interview was this mitochondrial DNA strand in an African woman that we've talked a little bit about in your show before, but it is the genetic Eve. And it is this L0, L1, L2, L3, which
Mm-hmm.
exists within Black people, particularly Black women on the continent of Africa, which can
Mm-hmm.
then become any other genotype in the world. That is to say, directly scientifically, that it is a Black woman who is able to repopulate the world from the original Eve gene.
Mm-hmm.
From there, European people carry and Asian people carry what's called MNN
Mm-hmm.
genotypes, right? They are copies and mutations of the original copies for things like climate, for things like sun, for things like range, and all these sorts of conditions that create geno changes in us. But I need to impress upon the fact that this place that we live in, why I say there's hope at the tunnel, because I want you to hear me and stick with this journey. The reason why I say this is because if you were to kill and get rid of the L, in the genotype, you would kill the original form, which means you could no longer create the copy. Hear me. If you create the L, you create a problem of what we call extinction in M and N. So M and N would eventually become, as you do with when one generation that marries each other, right? You would have all of these genetic problems, and the body would expel it.
Diseases and yes, yes.
What
Uh,
science has told the world in the
deformity.
last 10 years, which is coming out now across the international community, that we need to pay attention to, is that this thing that we hold on called ism is destructive to the very humanity that we exist in. If we were to stick by it and rub out the people that we fear and hate and dislike for whatever the reason, we, not we, but they become extinct.
Mm.
My God, you need to go back to the Eve gene to reseed the world. I want us in this country going through turmoil to understand that we carry Eve in us. And if we carry Eve in us, then it is our job through love, through patience, through kindness, through joy, through respect, through dignity, through lessons, through building, to repopulate this world and create yet again all of the variances that only we have the power to recreate. There's the hope.
There's the
There's
hope.
the place.
There's the hope. I think about those things with you, and then I also think about how many people have to die before they get the message. Laying in bed yesterday morning, I saw our president doing a live uh, broadcast from Egypt. And because you have done so much research on Egypt and what's happening there, and watch the trucks coming in, giving the Palestinians much needed food. How many tens of thousands of people have died there? Watch the Israeli hostages being uh, re, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Send it back.
Sent back to their family. I want to say re something, but it's not coming out. So with their families and the joy there. Two things struck me. How is it that for tens, decades, countries have been fighting to come to this agreement, and all of a sudden it happened like
Well, it
that?
didn't. And we have to be very careful when we look at this.
Okay, wait. So that's the first question.
Yeah.
And then the second one is, what's going to happen to all those people now on the Gaza Strip? Will they
Yeah.
be removed? Because I've been doing my research. Some have already been sent to Somalia, some have been sent to Sudan to move them somewhere else. What, in your estimation, what's getting ready to happen based on the knowledge that you've had about Egypt, not Egypt,
The,
I'm sorry, Israel? for
Israel. The
years.
international community has stood up at the last United Nations conference with a voice that said, we do find this to be a crime against humanity. What traditionally has happened when Europe does that is they find a new solution for Europe to win. Um, it seems that that solution might be to insert a prime minister like Tony Blair, the former prime minister of the United Kingdom, into Gaza, into Palestine. Um, I want you to hear that that is just as horrific as anything else. It would be, and let's go full circle. You have an illegal occupation of the United Kingdom in this area in Palestine. That illegal occupation is traded for refugees who are Jewish, who are the discards of Europe after World War, when Europe said we will not take these people back. Those people are dumped in Palestine, Palestine who accepted them freely as refugees, and then those people created a community that they then deemed a country that was then ratified called Israel. Right. Okay. So now that we have understood the crimes of this country and crimes against humanity of Israel against the people of the Gaza Strip, now we're going to reinsert a British prime minister into Palestine as an illegal occupation of Palestine. This is a full circle of the same shit again. It is. Don't see the yellow bus. Please don't look at the yellow bus. Is what I keep hearing when I see these things. I want you to understand that the motivation to build and create communities in the Gaza area by the Trump family is beyond. They have basically bulldozed everything with Israel that they needed to do to be able to build their hotels, casinos, and beachfront properties there. I don't
Were
believe
you
for half
telling
a
me
second.
that Netanyahu had no voice in what took place yesterday?
I think Netanyahu decided he would trade the safety of Israel so long as Palestine was controlled by a European power and not by Palestinians. And they code that as Hamas. Hamas exists and was in power only because of the forcing into a corner, into a closet, into a very small hangar in the closet of the house, of the hallway, of the living room, of the mansion that once belonged to Palestine. So a group of militant, angry, terrorist like structure was born out of the pressure created into putting these people into hell. Right, that's who then was born to come out and fight. That power has been dissolved, so they say, and will never come back again so long as they accept European rule.
I also noticed that no one really spoke much about it in social media spaces.
Or were they tampered down? You must remember that social media now is completely owned in this country, has now been completely owned, right? TikTok is finishing, wrapping, and maybe has already done so, the deal to purchase in America and run through a billionaire oligarch tech company that has been the largest supporter of Israel in funding in the world. Right, that is who will now own TikTok in the United States of America. I want us to understand that what you may be seeing is heavily, heavily guarded and edited by what we would say in 1984 George Orwell's is Big Brother.
Yeah, because doesn't social media look different now? You
Now, when people go to find me, it says it gives them a warning. This person may not be real. Isn't that interesting? This person may not be real. And then it doesn't allow them to follow me on Instagram for a long time. This is because I constantly spit truth that speaks to power. So instead of just shutting it down, having to explain shut it down, they just don't allow people to follow me.
what is the fascination with Gaza? If you tell me that the fascination is the beachfront property, I'm going to I what is the fascination with
The
Gaza?
original fascination with the Gaza Strip is it is the only stronghold of the European powers in the Middle East. So if you want to control the trafficking of oil, right, and this gets back to this whole democratic understanding of getting away from oil dependency. If you get away from oil dependency and mineral dependency, and you suddenly have this sort of clean energy, that was this push, right, which everyone complained about who was conservative, well, why should we do this? This is going to get rid of jobs. The reason is because it makes you not dependent and beholden to Middle Eastern ways of existing. You don't have to traffic the Middle East if you don't have supplies coming from it. So the American interest, rather national interest, national security interest in this region of the world is based upon our use of its resources. And so we had no place, right? We had a small base in Jordan. We had this place called Israel. that we could control. We created it, we could control it, we could weaponize it, we could make sure that we can land our planes and leave our planes. And should we ever need an ally in the Middle East, it would be Israel, and we would do all of our military actions from Israel, which was smack dab in the center of everything we wanted to be in to control it. The problem is Israel decided it was going to control us instead of we controlling it. And that became an issue for national security and for the country. You hear now politicians being to speak about that. You hear people who are on the alt right saying, we're done with this. We're not interested. And if it means that we have to give up our own young, that is to say, yes, President Trump has mentioned the Epstein files. Yes, Epstein was a plant from Israel that made sure that every single country was ensnared in some sort of trafficking or child sex problem or some
Which
sort of
means powerful
exploitation.
men.
All powerful people. So there was this idea, and we talked about this before. There was the idea that Israel would cede really interesting and disgusting sort of tropes about these powerful people, so they could never speak against Israel, right? So it would never break, and that if they ever did finally break and secede from Israel, that Israel would go to the nuclear option.
Yeah.
We spoke about that
Yes.
on the show and pulled that up and
Told me
talked about
that.
that, so
Yes.
people can go back to that research. Um, that is a very real thing. It's something that Netanyahu spoke about in the UN week. It's something about whatever else is pardoning of crimes against humanity and criminal behavior. It's all of these things which are wrapped up into this idea of power and control. So
Mhm.
for the Zionists who created first Zionism, Lord Balthasar
Mhm.
Rothschild, that was not an idea. It didn't exist in Judaism. In fact, it is anti-Judaism. If you actually look at its text, it requires people to move to Jerusalem before the Messiah is declared, and that is against the Talmud, right? Talmud doesn't allow it. The law doesn't allow it. The Torah doesn't speak to it. This is a problem for people who are Jewish because it is antithetical to the law. The law which they ascribe is in to wander, if you will, and be nomadic tribes until the Messiah is coming. In which case, a new Jerusalem can be built. But to build one before the Messiah comes is antithetical, and they are to go to him when he shows up. So that's context for that understanding. This is why there's a big break of fraction, even within Jewish communities, about whether this is okay. And many Jews and rabbis on the face of the earth think Israel is horrific, are
Mhm.
not okay with it, and are not here to stand up with it. So I want us to be very clear that we are not speaking about anti-Semitic value. We are not at all. In fact, we are very Semitic in our understanding of the protection of people as a group and an ethnic people and a religiosity. We
Mhm.
are speaking about the nation of Israel and its
Mhm.
cruelty and its inception and its illegal occupation of a piece of land that it stole, quite frankly, with Resolution 181. And when we look at that truth, when we look at what it is willing to do, murder Charlie Kirk, move people to the side, get rid of politicians,
Mhm.
blackmail, and seed into the government at its highest levels individuals who are willing to create and commit espionage, and who are willing to create and commit treason in this country in order to support a nation that does not belong to the United States of America.
Mhm.
So this deal went bad. This deal went really bad. People like Donald Trump, who are heavily listed in these documents, heavily incriminated, we've already understood that to be true. We
Mhm.
know that his name is there. We know what people had to say. Um, People like that have decided to come to the table with a newfounded idea. Why don't we put European power in control of Palestine?
Mhm.
That would both soothe the issues that Israel feels of needing to take over this land for itself.
Mhm.
It would also give some minor relief, we feel, to the Palestinian people. They won't be blown up every day, but God knows they won't be the same. They'll have no
Mhm.
voice in their own truth and in their own direction and where they're
Mhm.
going. And it will allow the European world, the Western world, to continue to control this area of the Middle East.
Mhm.
Um, I put forward a plan maybe a year and a half ago that I think I gave this audience at one point, which is to say, I think the UN should be sat in Gaza. I think the United Nations should be sat in Palestine. I think that would, in many ways, reach the same conclusion of there will not be war at the United Nations. There will not be this sort of, there will be a check and balance. I think the problem that people have with that in some rooms is that it gives Palestinians power and autonomy over their own selves. And I believe they should have that. So when I look at two-state option, I look at a United Nations sat in Palestine and in Palestinian control, the Palestinian people with a Palestinian prime minister, not in a British former prime minister coming to rule it as another section of pseudo-Europe.
What does all of that now mean for the rest of us around the world, particularly in the United States? since our president is being hailed as the savior of a war that has been going on for decades, for ceasing
It
for.
won't last. Ceasefire in Israel is like, French fries at McDonald's. Um, this is not something which I think is going to last very long. I pray it lasts. I don't think it will. Um, and I think when what the government has to do is continue to release the Epstein files.
Mhm.
And I think we'll make it very clear what the motivation is of the President of the United States in creating some sort of issue of peace for Israel. Hear that, for Israel. I think we should look into the emoluments clauses and look at the amount of money being made by the Trump family in Israel. And I think we need to bring that to the fore and speak about that more honestly, more publicly, more truthfully.
But then it's a conversation we can't really have openly, truly. I mean, you share it with me when you come on the air. Um, but Monica's asking, who was, I went back to sleep. I'm sorry, I wasn't feeling well. Who was the man that he said they should pardon?
Oh, he wants him to pardon Benjamin Netanyahu. Donald Trump asked the president of Israel to pardon its prime minister for his crimes against humanities
He said that in his speech yesterday.
publicly.
I'm telling you, I didn't see any
He
of this.
leaned
When
into
I
it and
finally
asked
lifted
him.
my head yesterday, I didn't see any of this.
And even the Israelis laughed.
Say that again.
Even the Israelis laughed. They were chuckling at this request for a pardon. What head of state of another country request a pardon for another head of state in their country?
Whew.
So what will happen with this? I doubt
So
this will
you
hold.
believe that the peace will not last?
I do not believe it is Palestine's job to accept this deal. I do believe it is the United Nations' job and the European powers' job and NATO's job and all the people's job to come together and defend Palestine against the crimes against humanity which Israel has perpetrated against them, as well as admonishing them for their cruelty and recognizing that this entire issue is their fault. There was no war in this area until the Western world put its finger in it.
Okay. The thought that struck me for the little bit that I saw yesterday morning was our cities are being, troops are being sent into our cities. People are being, uh, let go from their jobs, Um, just so much, what it feels like is so much chaos here. How do you juxtapose that to this, right?
You have to ask where the money is. And when you follow the money, you get back to Rome, the White House, and to the president and his children who have become billionaires upon billionaires over billionaires by
David, stop talking.
deals. Uh,
Everything comes back to money. Everything.
The Qataris have decided to build an air base with the blessings of the president who signed that deal at the desk in the United States of America, I believe in Wisconsin. Yeah. This is after the Qataris gave Donald Trump a big, beautiful, magnificent jet. He would like to use the Air Force One. Have we heard of the Trojan horse story? Anyone? I don't know if you have it. You should read it if you haven't, because it is really bad governance and bad politics to accept gifts like that from foreign governments that they are going to create and make, which you're then going to fly around in. I think it's really stupid, quite frankly. This is why we don't do that. This is why we have amendments clauses in governance. But um, when we talk about the sellout of America, I want us to be very clear that it's in hyper mode right now, but it didn't begin here.
You just, I don't know. Oh my God. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. what's happening, and I mean, I've been literally away from everything for the last few days. What's going on in the country? I know that North Carolina, Outer Banks are still having issues with flooding. I know that there has been flooding in New Jersey. What else is happening that I
I
may
want to
have
speak
missed?
to I want to speak to resilience, if I may. And I'm lost if it's the governor of Georgia or
I
no
want to look at
Tennessee.
this. Look at this. I
I
joined a
know.
resilience institute
Yes.
that I'm going to work through for the next few days because
I want you to
all of
look
this
up which governor this was. I'm not sure which of
okay.
the southern states he is, but there's a governor who recently, help me out, who recently stood up to ICE by saying, "We are fully prepared to meet illegal force in this state by imprisoning those who commit crimes here." So what he has done is ordered the state to empty the prisons of its prisoners population in order to make room for ICE. That is a resistance. If we can find the African American man who made this statement, he is the governor.
Hold on, I'm
Uh,
looking up now. I'm looking it up now.
mhm.
What did you say? He
um,
emptied prisons?
he commanded that the state empty its prisoner population in order to make room for people to be arrested and imprisoned who commit crime against the laws of the land. That is a direct threat to ICE, which is now being moved into that particular place. And I cannot remember the state. Um, Struggling to remember the state. Does anybody in the audience remember the state?
Cancel. No, hold on, Darnell. Hold on, wait.
Tall black
I
man.
can't find it. Uh,
Um, Anybody in the audience? What's the audience saying? Does anybody
hold on,
remember who
hold
that
on. I'm
was?
looking it up. I was looking in the wrong place.
Uh,
Uh, asked.
but while you're looking at it, that is a resistance. That is how the ways in which Governor Newsom, for instance, is fighting, that's resistance. The way in which this child is fighting, that's resistance. The way that we just don't lay down and say, okay, fine. No, no, the law says this, and you may not come here if you're going to break the law. And if you break the law, we're going to arrest you. So ICE, please come this way and do something illegal so we can put you in jail. And if you think we don't have rooms in our jail, we have decided to clear out the jail in
Right.
order to make room for you.
I can't see it. I think I'm asking the wrong thing.
1 second. Let me see if I can. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you.
Um, okay, which uh,
All right. Let's see. I just is it it's the only ones that are coming up is JB Pritzker, Newsom, uh, Tim Walz. But it's not get, I'm telling you, even when we search things, David, stuff
I
is
don't
not coming up.
remember. I know I'm searching now and it's struggling to give me the answer I'd like.
That's
Does
what I'm
anybody
telling you. Usually you can put in a few words and it shows up. Everything is shifting and changing.
it sure
Everything.
is. Everything.
This is crazy.
It's mad at us. It's mad at us. Uh it doesn't like us today.
Oh, I know. Because I'm putting in all kinds of prompts and it's not showing up at all. Wow. Yeah, Michael Bolton is next. Yes. Jesus. And the thing that I think caught a lot of Americans off guard is that when folks were saying this is getting ready to happen and that's getting ready to happen, because it didn't happen in the moment, they're like, yeah, y'all are just talking. But it was the thing was happening, right? And so now we're here and people are going, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Oh my God. The other thing that I need to talk about is Katie, the 23-year-old that's been missing in Philadelphia. What a sad story. What a sad story. They're now saying that our homicide detectives are going to be the ones. Let me. It's too much, and this is why my behind is like, yo, this is too much. Let me look in here and see. Hold on, David. Uh, and then they did it. Wait, so they did a ceasefire deal with Netanyahu absent. What does that mean? They wouldn't say, right? So listen to this. President Donald Trump joined more than 20 world leaders in Egypt on Monday for talks on Gaza's future, with the first phase of the Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement underway. Among those gathered for the summit were Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, French President Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and former Prime Minister Tony Blair. Ooh, David, you are onto something. As well as officials from Qatar, Egypt, Jordan, and the United Arab Emirates and Turkey. The group posed for a family picture in front of a sign that read, Peace 2025, before signing a ceremony related to the ceasefire agreement. This was written by abcnews.com. All 20 living hostages led by Hamas and hundreds of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel walked free on Monday as part of a ceasefire pausing 2 years of war that decimated the Gaza Strip and killed tens of thousands of Palestinians. The Israeli military said Monday that it was escorting into Israel the bodies of 4 deceased captives who had been held by Hamas in Gaza. It was not immediately clear when the remaining 24 deceased captives would be handed over by Hamas. Israel said it freed more than 1,900 Palestinian prisoners as part of the Gaza ceasefire deal. Speaking to Parliament, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared he was committed to this peace, quote unquote, raising hopes that the ruinous war, which triggered other conflicts in the Middle East, might come to an end. But fundamental questions remain over when and how, whether Hamas will disarm and who will govern Gaza. 6abcnews.com. As celebrations and tearful reunions broke out in Israel on Monday, as the last 20 living hostages returned home, similar joyful scenes emerged from the Gaza Strip as buses carrying freed Palestinian prisoners entered the war-torn territory. As part of the ceasefire deal to end the 2-year war, more than 1,900 Palestinian prisoners were released around the same time as the Israeli hostages. About 1,700 of them were Palestinians detained by Israel in Gaza since the war began in October 2023, following Hamas terrorist attack in Israel. The deal specified that none of these released on Monday were involved in the October 7 attacks. It was an indescribable journey of suffering, hunger, unfair treatment, oppression, torture, and curses, more than anything you could imagine, one of the released prisoners, 51-year-old Kamal Abu Shanab, told the Associated Press upon arriving back in Ghana. All right, I'm coming down from international news. That was 6abc.com. Back to national news. In New York, joblessness for Black workers is rising again 2 years after reaching a record low. It's a troubling indicator. Joblessness often spikes higher for historically marginalized groups during economic downturns, and it takes longer to fall. This time, the Trump administration's assault on diversity programs and cuts to the federal workforce could make it an even more difficult for Black workers to recover when conditions improve. The African American unemployment rate has surged over the past 4 months from 6%. Uh-oh. Okay. I'm going to send it to you again. The African American unemployment rate has surged over the past 4 months from 6% to 7.5%, while the rate for white people ticked down slightly to 3.7%. On top of a slowing economy, the White House's actions have disproportionately harmed Black workers. Okay. I think.
Censored. Censored. Let me tell you what I had to do to get back on here. I had to change my VPN. So your VPN is the thing on your phone that tells you what country and where you're at. I had to switch to my Italian VPN. Hey, crazy.
David, I want you to be safe.
Listen, I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. And if I should go, they just know. No, everybody ever hear me. If I should go, I didn't do it. I'm a very happy person. I live beautifully. And I am going nowhere. I feel like Candace Owens. I'm going nowhere on purpose.
Yeah.
And if I disappear one day, it is not because I chose to leave. No, I didn't go to another country and get abducted. No, I didn't this, that, and the other. No, I didn't volunteer and move to a new place. No, I wasn't captured and in prison. Whatever happened to me, you'll know was something funky and strange and wrong because I'm not leaving here without a big bang and a shebang and a funeral like God. So,
The last thing we're going to talk about with Israel is that and Hamas is David said, interestingly, Israel and Hamas did not sign the peace deal. Okay, leave that one alone. We're going to leave that one alone. We will. We are. Let's see. The young lady, I don't see her here. Kata, that's disappeared in Philadelphia. Jesus Christ. There's so much
amen.
going on.
A young cadet who
Yeah.
disappeared.
Yes, I
Yes,
saw that too
yes,
this morning.
and
Yes.
this was the 250th anniversary of the Navy.
Yes, saw that too.
So I found to be able to find him. I don't see why we can't understand where he went to. It seems to me that he was easy to locate. Uh, am I frozen on
The
you, Moses?
Department of Education has laid off nearly all its staff in its Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, according to the Federal Employees Union. According to USA Today, Rachel Gittleman, president of the American Federation of Government. So all these children with special needs and these special services, what's going to happen to them? These terminations double down on the harm to K-12 students in schools across the country, she said. The layoffs came amid a broader wave of job cuts across the federal government amid the ongoing government shutdown. In a Friday, October 10th court filing, the Justice
Internet
Department said the
connection.
Education Department has laid off over 460 employees, amounting to roughly 20% of its workforce. Nearly 90% of the department is furloughed. The Department of Education, that they said it would never happen, has furloughed. 90% of the Department of Education is gone, wiped out.
Go on. Well, this is what happens with Wrestling Federation person in systems in America. Someone who has not, I would find to be noteworthy and
Now, David, now you're coming in and out. This is so interesting. David,
is have
David, you're coming in and out. I
and
need
it
to just
doesn't like us this. We said too much. We got it
yeah,
recorded and save it.
yeah. So,
That's right now. It's
yeah, you are. You're going in and out, my brother. You're going in and out. Good morning, Simone. No, they did not sign, Laura. Neither Hamas or Israel signed the agreement, so I'm not sure what's happening there. And Monica says, so what's was all the hype to head to Egypt for this signing? I don't know. I don't know. David is. Whoo. I don't know. David just keeps going in and out now. So we're going to leave this thing alone and let him. I don't want him to talk about this anymore. He has been, David has been researching, has researched, has been sharing with us all the things that have been going on. And I really do think now they're, I need him to stop talking about this stuff, unfortunately, because I don't want him to find himself in a space where he don't. But he puts himself on the line when he comes on and talks about these things, every single week. So I really truly want him to stop at this point. I do. I really want him to stop. He's given you enough to do your own research. Um, uh, Viola, let me look this up because I need to find Kata Scott. Um, This is so terrible what happened to this young lady, and we just can't figure out what is going on. What is happening here? And the young cadet, right, Winetta? What happened to him? What happened to him? Lord have mercy. All right, let me something is going on, and they cannot all be suicide. So let's see. Jesus Christ. And we're now starting to see way more people just disappearing. Some are being found. Philadelphia police and the FBI are searching for 23-year-old Kata Scott, who has been missing now for more than a week. Family members and community volunteers are conducting their own searches and pleading for the public's assistance. Public Police urges anyone with information to contact 215-686-TIPS. 215-686-TIPS. Good morning. Welcome to Mornings with Marva.
Well, this seems the only way that we can say.
Oh my goodness, David.
Isn't it something? Well, you have it live, ladies and gentlemen. Censorship.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So we're talking about Kata Scott now, the 23-year-old that's been missing. Why do you think that no one has been able to locate her with all the cameras that we have everywhere? Why did she just disappear how did she disappear into thin air?
It is unbeknownst to me how many people disappear today. It used to be that people were abducted and were taken and were, you name it. And there was usually a reason, ransom, crime or something. But now people seem to be going and you don't know if the person is missing because they are foul play at hand or if this is government. And I think that sadly a lack of attention gets paid to the criminality aspect when we are so inundated and fearful about what government is doing to people to abduct them. So we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah. Back to the national news. Vice President J.D. Vance on Sunday said there will be deeper cuts to the federal workforce the longer the government shutdown goes on, adding to the uncertainty facing hundreds of thousands who are already furloughed without pay. And amid the stubborn stalemate in Congress, Vance warned that as the federal shutdown continued, the new cuts would be painful, even as he said the Trump administration worked to ensure that the military is paid this week and some services will be preserved for low-income Americans, including food assistance. You see what's happening here?
Quite frankly, and this is awful, but it's true. This is one of those moments of war technique. I think it's absolutely great that the Democrats are not budging to give in to cutting off people's medical resources, cutting off people's pay, this and the other. I think they need to hold the line. I think they don't need to budge not 1 inch on this. If the shutdown continues, then it is clearly in the hands of the party which holds the House and the Senate and the White House, holding all three executive branches and having great influence and power over the courts. I think that you can say this is clearly in the court of the Republican Party. And I think you can take the current President of the United States statement saying that when there is a shutdown in government, it is the fault of the President of the United States as bold, because here we sit in a complete shutdown at the fault of whom? The longest shutdown we've had in U.S. history was at President Trump's first term, I believe. And this looks like it could gear up to be the second longest shut we've had. If it means that his own party suffers, jolly good. Because you need to understand the implications that your party is willing to go to make sure that you do not have the things that you need in life. So thank God that someone's holding the line. I am not a person who says they need to rush to reopen the government in a foolish way that would give the Republicans everything they're asking for and cut off the American people from their source. I think we also need to be concerned by what the president's own national security people are saying, which they have said to us on the news, which has been going around on various social media platforms about how the president believes he has autonomous power and how they believe that he has the right to act as a dictator in America. I think that this is one of the last holdouts, and so I'm glad to see the Democrats are holding strong and saying, no, we don't budge on that.
Right. Midshipman Second Class Kyle Filbert James, a junior from Whippany, New Jersey, reportedly went missing on October 9th, according to Report Annapolis News. James's family was alerted by Academy officials late that day that the cadet had missed all of his classes, a seemingly unusual occurrence. The following day, the news outlet reported that the family was informed that his remains had been found near the Annapolis campus. The Naval Academy has not confirmed any of the details about James's disappearance or where and in what condition he was found. Ah,
I watched stepmothers come to the nation to find her child. It was one of the most horrific things of recent memory that I have heard is the pain in a mother's voice. Um, it's funny, my mother and I, despite whatever we go through this and the other, one of the hardest things for me to hear is for my mother to cry. And so hearing this woman, this mother crying in desperation for the return of her son, and now to know that this is the resolve is is a moment which requires pause.
it says it's reported that he was. Oh Lord, listen to this. The 20-year-old's death is the second death in the academy in the past month. In September, a midshipman and a Navy police officer was injured in a shooting on campus following a false report of active shooter at the Naval Academy. It is saying that he is his mother's only child. I just, I just, um, David,
Yeah.
I want to thank you for continuing to have a conversation with me. Um, but I need you to stop talking about it. Okay. Um, I need you to stay safe. I really do.
Yes. Such a time as this.
Yes, agreed. Dennis said Miss Scott told her friends an unknown individual or individuals were harassing her by phone. Venor says police Friday police are still investigating to learn more about who is allegedly harassing her, and that they have access to her phone. But I get that the Philadelphia Police Department and the detectives will not share, the information that they have. Right? They will not tip off the people. It's all. I have said this to all of you. With when the young man was found hanging from his campus, a tree in his campus, and then there were other deaths. When we talked about truckers in North Carolina saying their trucks are being turned over, a couple of truckers were found dead. Like we kept talking about these things. Travel. Do not travel by yourselves anymore. I have said this over and over again, and keep a line and a link to your children. They may not understand, and I'm talking about your grown children, right? They may think this is much ado about nothing because, quite frankly, they're not following the news, which can be a dangerous thing and it's also easy to not follow the news because there's so much happening and it inundates us, and our bodies just feel so strange having to consistently absorb some of this. But when we lock ourselves down, for instance, for the last few days, I've not been following anything, just trying to focus and get myself together. There was so much that I missed. There was so much that I missed. And even as my producer sends me the news that is, that's current, by the time I get that and overnight into the next morning, there's so much more that was missed. It's a lot. It is a lot. It's a lot. David, what do you do for self-care?
Travel.
Travel.
Quite literally. I allow myself to say yes to the moment of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is getting on a plane, if that is hitting a spa, if that is going to the movies, if it's calling a friend and saying, right now we have lunch.
Yes, yes.
I allow myself to say yes to the moment of the day. And I also resigned to know that I come from a line of Davids who have made it their business to get on the world microphone, megaphone, and speak truth to power for generations. I come from a group of people who have always put themselves on the line for the better and greater good. So I grew up with an understanding of what it meant to be such a person at such a time as this. And therefore, there is a lack of reasonable fear. There's a lack of reasonable fear that I need to go find fear, because I think that I have been raised and taught to know that even if your line ends, the road ahead is paved. And so I come to this world um, with eyes fiery enough to speak to the power of the day, and that allows me to feel restful when I need to in the moment, because I'm not looking for the resolve to be tomorrow. I understand the struggle and the war to be a lifelong journey.
Yeah. My brother, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for joining me this morning. Right.
Likewise,
We have been, I feel like we are, I feel like we're like this team of people that have been talking for well over a year now about what is happening here. And while I see folks, pictures popping up about this event and that event, and we did this and we did that, and life is going on as normal, um, there has to be, there's got to be people behind the scenes planning some way, somehow. They're just not talking about it because they understand that being on social media, and if that is the case, then my God, people finally began listening, right?
I say to people all the time that one of the greatest lessons I've ever learned is if you're going to speak, say something. And so when we come to this place to speak, our job is to say something.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, my brother. Always a pleasure. We'll talk soon, okay?
Likewise.
Bye, honey. Bye-bye. All right, guys. As you can hear, I still don't sound like myself with this nasal thing going on. I'm going to get off the air now, but tomorrow morning we'll be back on again. This episode of Mornings with Mo is officially over. I'll see you when I see you. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.